Talking about the economics of the future, you should join.
What was the first one? You had the sovereignty
The
number
influence
two.
the monetary system has on us, because that's the underappreciated thing. And then we want to talk about what it means to be sovereign, and then I'll give you the details. You know, this is how we do it, this is what we've invented, this is what we have available, you can just start doing it, you know? And I can do that in half an hour, but I'm going to do it in 21 minutes, and that'll give us 9 minutes to take up whatever you didn't understand. Now, the first thing is that there's a gap between what you hear and what I'm intending to communicate and what you hear and understand. I'm bound to say things that where you go, can't be, not true, don't believe it, he's full of shit. You gotta stop me at that moment. Because if we just let it ride, then I've more or less lost you. But actually in this group I doubt that'll happen. Okay, so the situation that we're in with regard to money is that we all know how to get it. We know what you have to do in order to earn it. Having earned it, we know how to spend it. A few of us, a relatively small majority, know how to save it, and we all know how to borrow it. And some of us even know how to invest it. And our experience of money is that. I know what I have to do to earn it. I hope I can save some, maybe even invest some. I certainly know how to spend it, and I know how to borrow it. And the problem with that is that it all goes back to this thing of borrowing. When you borrow money, and it doesn't really matter who you're borrowing it from, except fundamentally, but when you borrow money in the normal way that we think about borrowing money, there's an amount that you're borrowing. It's for a certain period of time at a certain rate of interest. And generally speaking, there's an amortization schedule so that you pay the same amount every month for the term of the loan that pays the whole thing. So I don't imagine that anybody in this room has a mortgage. Nobody has a mortgage, right?
Well, we all
Well,
do.
we all do. We all share one.
You share a mortgage?
We have to refinance a mortgage, but it's the Our Commons LLC holds a mortgage for the JRArc38 nonprofit 501c3. So that is
Who's the mortgage from?
from ourselves. We are our own mortgagor.
Okay, so it's not a mortgage.
Well, it
Well,
is
it
on
is.
paper, and unless
Okay.
the money pours according to contracts, then there's
Good.
bottom lines that can be enacted
Okay. So here's the characteristic.
according to schedule.
That loan, that mortgage, that debt is due and payable regardless of what happens. Regardless. It's a contract that you make that you did for a good reason. And to buy the ark, or to save the ark, or whatever, or to buy a car, or to buy a house, or start a business, or whatever it is. The thing is that that loan is due and payable regardless of what happens regarding the reason that you borrowed it. And so it isn't very difficult to see that as long as what you borrowed it for is working, you'll be able to pay it off, no big deal. But if for some reason you get sick, there's an economic crash and nobody comes up from New York, they shut down the train station, whatever it is, right? If something happens, you still have to pay it. Now, and the reason that that's significant is that the entire culture, the entire society, after you've left the indigenous world, the native world, and you enter into civilization, all of the money, not some of the money, not a little bit of the money, all of the money that's in circulation is issued by banks as loans, as interest-bearing loans. So the banks don't get the money from any of the places that you may think they get it from. They don't get it from the Fed. They don't get it from their depositors. They get it from you when you promise to pay. So I can go into that in some detail or not. Maybe at the end, if you want to know exactly how that works, I can step you right through it. But the consequence is that the bank is issuing the money that we have to use to live as a debt bearing interest to themselves. Right? So if we issued the money in order to pay for the things that we agree would be good, it would be benefiting us.
We know ourselves.
In the existing situation, all of the money, not some of the money, not a little bit of the money, not most of the money, all of the money in circulation, whether it's dollars or euros or yen, or whatever it is issued by banks as a debt to themselves. And the interest that you pay on those loans is automatically, systemically, by design, in a completely hidden way, transferring the wealth that we all create together from us to the owners of the bank. Now, the point is that because a debt, like a loan from the bank in particular, is a mathematical calculation and a contract backed up by the law, it is what creates this society. Everybody is doing what they have to do in order to get the money to live. And most of us, it's a very interesting situation that we're in. Most of the people here have a source of income that's independent of what they're doing, which is why you're here. Maybe some of us don't, but you know, there's a way of getting money that doesn't involve the 9-to-5 job. If it did, you wouldn't be here. So that's an indication. All of the people who are in a position to do what they want to do have either they've set themselves up so that they can live on very, very little money. You know, they forego the car and the house and all the stuff that they need to live, right? Or they have another source of income. They have a trust fund, or their parents are still, they're living in their parents' basement, or whatever it is, right? So if you want to participate in society the way that it's designed, you have to go along with all of the things. You have to get an education, which you pay through the nose for. You have to find yourself a job and do exactly what the person who hired you wants you to do, not what you want to do. So it's very important to find a job that you can sort of live with. At what point are the compromises that you're making not worth it? Well, I need the money. That's the situation. And the reason that I'm describing this is that, from my point of view at least, it's totally clear that the entire culture is a result of that. The entire culture that we can't stand is a result of all of our money being issued by banks as mathematically calculated loans due and payable regardless. Now that was probably about 7 minutes.
Let's breathe on that one. Breathe that one out.
Yeah.
Let it expire on its own due course.
So how many of you were objecting to what I was saying inwardly? Okay, So it's just all that means that all that's going to happen is that it'll gradually settle in, and you'll recognize that yeah, that's true. I look around. Now, what's the interesting thing if you borrow the money from a relative and you get in trouble? What does the relative do? Do they dispossess you or repossess the car or sell the house out from under you? What do?
They usually forgive you.
They help you rearrange your life so that you'll be able to make the money to pay them back. What does the bank do? They repossess the car or they repossess the house. What's the difference? Relationship. So we accept that we need money to live and that the banks don't give a shit, are required by law to foreclose on us. And one thing we know from the bailout in 2008, 2009 is that banks privatize their profits and they know how to socialize their losses. So they went and got Congress to deal with their rapaciousness. Okay, that's enough of the banking system. The next piece of this is why it is that sovereignty is so important. So the first thing is to realize that the situation that the colonists found themselves in, so the entire democratic thing goes back to the American colonies, all around the world. I mean, the French, the philosophical basis for it was developed in the Enlightenment. But nobody did it until the colonists did. There was no, you have to go back to Greece when they, when that idea first happened, and it disappeared with the church in the Middle Ages, and we can talk about the history if we want to, but the situation that the colonists were in is very, very instructive. It takes months for a ship to get from England to the colonies, or from the colonies back to England. And the idea of a colony, when you're the English settling or setting up a colony in America, is that the colony is going to serve you. It's going to bring you raw materials and wealth and gold and silver maybe, or furs or whatever it is that you've done the colony for, cotton from the south, what have you. And if you look at the Industrial Revolution in England, where it really started, it was based on cheap cotton from the south. So there's a attitude of the mother country to the colonies, and there's an attitude in the colonies towards the mother country, towards the king. So Americans experienced that they were British, basically, and that they owed their allegiance to the king. And part of their allegiance to the king was to what we know as common law. So the citizens have rights, even though the king is still the king and gets to decide at the end of the day. Well, the king violated the basic rights of the colonists. And I'll tell you a little story that'll make this clear. Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, a few of the others were very interested in the Iroquois nation. The Iroquois had enjoyed 1,000 years of peace. They were obviously very civilized, if primitive. They didn't have steel. They didn't have horses. They didn't have domesticated dogs or animals. They didn't. They had no horses. They had no domesticated animals. They had no steel. But they had a very sophisticated society. And Benjamin Franklin in particular was very admiring of the Iroquois, and he learned some Iroquois language, some Mohawk. And he went to a powwow, and the Indian chief, the Iroquois chief, had learned some English. And the Iroquois chief was this is before, at the very beginning of the French and Indian Wars, before the the real battle that's going on. It's in the 1730s or so, late 1720s. Anyway, Benjamin Franklin went to a Indian powwow, and he came to appreciate these, what we call the separation of powers. So in the Iroquois nation, the powers are very clearly separated. The men do this thing, and the women do this thing. And there's no mixing, you know. The men are the men, and the women are the women. And the grandmothers are responsible for choosing the chiefs, the leaders, the men who are going to lead the tribe. They choose the chief of the clan, they choose the chief of the tribe, and they choose the chief of the nation. They sit together, and what they're looking for is the capacity of an individual to embody the common good of the tribe, or to be able to interpret the Great Spirit. And the method of doing that is that the chief listens either in a regular sort of powwow, or if it's around a more sacred issue, around in the sweat lodge. The chief listens, and everybody, this is the talking stick, right? Everybody gets to speak. And what the chief is doing is listening until he can divine the will of the tribe or the will of the spirit. Benjamin Franklin was appreciating this. And he was thinking, yes, that's absolutely right. What we need to do is divide the powers. We need to divide the powers. That's the American contribution, the colonial contribution to the whole idea of democracy. We are the only government set up with independent branches, with division of powers. England is the ruling party assigns the ministers from among the elected MPs, members of parliament. It's very different. The parliamentary system is very different. So during that time, when the Indian received a knife or a domesticated dog or a horse from a colonist, the Indian would make him a wampum belt or a wampum hairpiece in order to commemorate and acknowledge the gift. So here's the dog, and here comes the wampum. So it certainly looks to the colonists like money. He just got paid. He did. The wampum is to commemorate and be able to remember the significance of the gift. This is really important, so I hope you're all with me. While Benjamin Franklin is at this powwow, this brave comes in laden down with wampum. Wampum is this purple, quahog shell, and the little bit of the inside is purple and most of it is white. So a white wampum is one sort of value, and purple is at least 10 times as much. So he comes laden down with wampum, and he gives it to the chief, and the chief starts distributing it to the chiefs of the tribes, and the chiefs of the tribes distribute it to the chiefs of the clan. And Benjamin Franklin's watching all this happen, and he's got a real quizzical look on his face, right? What's going on here? And the chief recognizes the problem, and he says to Benjamin Franklin that wampum is not money. Wampum is what we use in order to remember all the significant events that happen in the course of the year, and all the gifts that we give to each other, the treaties that we make, the agreements that we make, the births and the deaths, all of the significant things that happen. And there is a protocol for how to make the memento so that it serves as a mnemonic, as a remembrance. And Benjamin Franklin is taking this in, And then the chief says, it's my responsibility to make sure that there's enough wampum in my nation for everybody to make the mementos to commemorate all the important events. He's responsible for that. And Benjamin Franklin goes, oh my God, of course. There always has to be enough money for all the transactions that people want to make. There always has to be enough money for all the transactions that people want to make. That's what the sovereign does. The sovereign makes sure that there's enough money for all the transactions that people want to make. He wrote a paper called The Utility and Necessity of a Paper Currency. And it spread like wildfire through the colonies, and all of the colonies started issuing what they called colonial scrip. Scrip. Paper money. Every colony did it differently. Massachusetts had a little bit of a problem. They kept trying to issue more than was justified. But Pennsylvania didn't. So the consequence was that from around 1730 to around 1760, the colonies were incredibly prosperous. The colonial economy grew from practically nothing to rival England. So Benjamin Franklin is in England to represent the colonies, and he's absolutely dismayed because there are poorhouses and almshouses, and they're sending debtors to Australia, and I mean, he's just aghast. And he says to his friends who have invited him, I don't understand this. And so they explain to him that there's a population explosion and there's not enough work for everybody. You know, Malthus has been talking about the problem of scarcity and the overpopulation and all that stuff. So it sounds familiar. Anyway, so Benjamin Franklin goes, what are you talking about? How could there be too many people and not enough work? That's stupid. He doesn't quite say it like that. What he actually says is, in the colonies, everyone is prosperous and of high moral character. We have no poor people, and if we had I can't remember it exactly. It's been a while since I've said it. We have no poor people, and no everyone is of high and well educated. Your problem is not that you have too many people and too little work. Your problem is that you have the Bank of England and a debt-based monetary system. In the colonies, we issue the money in proper proportions so that it passes easily from the producer to the consumer. But here in England, all your money is issued as debt, bearing interest, and there is never enough money to satisfy the demand of the people. So they got all excited about this because it made so much sense, and they dragged Benjamin Franklin off to Parliament, and he told Parliament all about it, the result of which was that Parliament banned colonial scrip, and King George said, cut it out, you got to pay in English coin, gold and silver coin, which you can't get because it comes from England. As soon as it gets here from England, it gets sent back to England to buy glass and copper and all that stuff, right? I mean, it's hopeless. That's why the colonies rebelled, because the king had taken away what they then understood was their actual sovereignty. It's up to the sovereign to make sure that the people have enough money for all the transactions that they want to make, for the things that are actually in demand. So as Benjamin Franklin said, it wasn't a little tax on tea. It was the king depriving the colonies of their sovereignty that was the cause of the American Revolution, of the Revolution. Now that's really, really important. I hope you're all very impressed because it's so clear. I mean, it really is so clear. So if we, us, we the people, guess what? If we are ever going to be sovereign and if we're ever going to create a society that's a reflection of who we are, guess what we're going to need to do?
Flower
Using
power
the
company.
American dollar.
Issue the
All right.
money.
Yes.
Okay, so that was 7 minutes, I hope.
Probably a little more.
Not bad.
The people's mint.
Alright.
What?
The people's mint.
Yeah. Okay, so how do we do this? This is kind of impossible, isn't it? I mean, after all, if you just issue money, what are you going to do? I mean, who's going to take it?
We have about, like, we'll do five more minutes of questions and stuff. We still, was
Yeah,
that
the
really
third
first
section.
one?
He did 1, 2, and now he's got the third. I
Oh,
think.
Well, you
Yeah.
started really
We
late.
did
I'm
start
still on time
Oh,
on my
okay,
time,
alright.
Yeah.
if I may.
Yeah.
Finish
So-
up? Yeah, he's still recording.
So the last piece of this is that what we're proposing, what Common Good is proposing, is very, very straightforward. And it's really easy to do, but it has to be done. Right? You run into all of the usual things that you do whenever you're trying to start something. You've got to get people to understand it, etc. So I will just describe the technology so that you can see how it works. It's entirely based on the internet. And the fact that the internet makes us all connected means that you can take out your smartphone, or the merchant can take out their smartphone. They can take a picture of the QR code on your card. Oh, come on, just come out.
Are you able to issue cards in a mobile station?
No, we mail them to you.
Yeah.
So you get a card.
Yeah, maybe pass that around.
Yeah, pass it around. You get a card, it has a QR code on it. The merchant snaps the picture with the app, with the smartphone app that actually just takes the picture of the QR code, connects you to the account. They type in the amount of money. It can be integrated into their point of sale system, and you've just paid with Common Good. That means because of the cell phone, the QR code, and the internet, transaction costs are practically nothing. It costs what the server costs per month, right? And of course the amount of computing power, as you get more and more and more, has to go up, but it never amounts to much. I mean, it's not even fractions of a penny per transaction. So, signing up for a Common Good account is based on certain sort of very basic principles. You should be invited by somebody who knows you. Who got their Google account by virtue of an invitation? Does anyone remember? Okay, you got invited to get a Google account. After a while, Google didn't need to do that anymore, but they were trying to do something which is actually important. Make sure that the people who were joining in the beginning didn't game the system. Anyway, that's the idea. So somebody that you know and could reasonably trust, we quantify it. We say, would you trust this person to pay you back $250 if you lend it to them? Yeah, if I had $250, I would lend it to someone I felt confident would pay me back. Okay, good. But it's just the general idea. So now you sign up for a Common Good account, which is just like signing up for a bank account. Why? Because we're a financial services business and we're regulated. And we have to comply with all of the crap, which means you have to give us your social security number, we have to verify you, we have to make find out how long you've been in. It's just like opening a bank account, all those things that you have to fill in. And you connect your bank account to your common good account. You give us your bank account information. You can still do it if you don't have a bank account, that's fine. I'm sure some of you don't have bank accounts. But because then you can go to a merchant and just exchange cash for common good. But now that your account is connected to your bank account, you can tell the system, the common good system, how much money you want it to take out of your bank account and put in your common good account. And when your common good account goes down to, that level, how much more to put in. So that the whole thing can be automated, right? There's no, you can change it anytime. Go online to your account and change it. You can even go online on your smartphone and change it and do whatever you need to do. Here's the magic. You put what you think of as your hard-earned dollars into your common good account, and it sits in the community's escrow account, and we issue the same amount of common good. Why? Because we agreed that that's what we were going to do. So when you sign up for your common good account, you've also signed the agreement. The agreement says two things essentially. I won't game the system, I'll use it as intended, and I'll pay attention. Those two things. So, the dollars sit in the community's escrow account. We issue common good, which is what you trade with. So any store, any retail business, any other person, your yoga instructor or whoever, your doctor or whoever's agreed to, your dentist, whoever's agreed to sign up, you pay with common good, and the common good circulates. So the important thing, in order to make all of this really work, is that there are economic circles. The grocery store where you buy your food has to be able to pay their employees with common good and their suppliers with common good who can shop at the grocery store. So if there are plenty of places where you can spend common good on things that are actually in demand, that you actually want, that you need, then why wouldn't you? If there aren't, well, then you just put a little bit of money in your common good account, because after all, here's the whole point. Once you're part of once you've signed up for common good, you're part of a geographically located common good community, and you decide what to issue common good for. So one of the things you do when you sign up is you appoint a proxy. You choose somebody who, if you don't vote, their vote will count for you too. So we can get 100% participation. You can change your proxy anytime. You have to appoint an alternate so that we don't get a little circle where it's not working. But and we have community meetings where anybody who wants to, who's a member of Common Good, they come together and they talk about how would we like our community to be, how much of the escrow account can we allocate because it's not being used to cash out. Right? If you can't spend your common good, if you have way more common good than you can spend, then you're going to have to cash them out. It's going to come back out of the escrow account, right? And then there's less in the escrow account. So we can sit together and we can say, how much of the escrow account can we safely spend? That's dollars. Can be spent anywhere, by law. This bill is legal tender for all debts, public and private. That's the point. The dollar is legal tender. You have to accept it. And debts can only be paid, or the legal system will only back you up if you're using the legal tender, dollars, in America.
And therefore the laws don't apply?
No. But we can decide what to issue common good for. And we could issue common good, as long as we're confident that there's enough circulation, we can issue common good to incentivize. we could say that there are a couple of charities that we're particularly that we particularly want to support. Right? So every transaction generates a donation to these charities that were chosen on the basis of the proportion by which the community supported them, as an example, right? So the charity gets a donation for every transaction, which we're creating. It's not coming from anywhere, we're creating it, we're increasing the money supply. If we increase the money supply too much, right, there's way too much common good, then there won't be anything in the escrow account. In fact, we might spend down the whole, cash out the whole escrow account, and then we're really screwed because now there's no dollars for people who really have to cash out. You mean if we're sovereign, we're going to have to manage the money supply? You betcha. So, in other words, we're going to have to be conscious of what's going on in our economy? Absolutely. We're going to have to make the decisions about what's reasonable to do. So we provide on the website all the feedback that you need. So you can see how fast the system is growing, how many people there are, how many businesses there are, how many of the transactions are person to business or business to person like payroll, or business to business like supplier, right? You can watch it all happen in real time. How much is the escrow account relative to how much common good is actually circulating? At what rate is the escrow account growing or declining? What are we going to do? It's declining. So we put out the word. We need more businesses. We need more places to spend. So why aren't you talking to the businesses where you're shopping in dollars? And get them on board. And we could tell you all the people who are shopping at this common good place that's similar to that one, so let's get them on. Or you can ask the system to send them an email or a letter, the business that you want. So you get a letter from Common Good that says, these many customers of yours would like you to accept Common Good, which would generate money as the community has decided for this. And the business guy looks at this and he goes, what? It changes his mind. You mean every transaction that they make would benefit a charity? And I actually like that one. Why wouldn't I do it? If I have too much common good, I can cash them out. Why? Because we're smart and we're managing the whole thing properly. So that's the system that we've actually put in place. We're giving it to you. All you have to do is get enough businesses in wherever it is that you are. In Brooklyn. Some of you are from Brooklyn, right? Mm-hmm. Or in Armenia. Or wherever. And the best way to do it, okay, I'm over. The best way to do it is to form a little group and be the nucleus of the new Common Good community.
And you have one in Greenfield, and also, where was the other one?
Ann Arbor, we have one starting in Goshen, we have one hibernating in southern Vermont, and I have one that I'm just about to get going in New London.
It's exciting.
Thank you so much, John.
I want to look into it. Do you have it here in place at this location, or it's a per location community sort of thing, or?
Greenfield, Massachusetts.
They're establishing in Goshen, New York, which isn't that far from here, but it's kind of like a small town, right?
No, Goshen, Indiana.
Goshen, Indiana. Okay.
And was that New London, Connecticut?
New London, Connecticut.
Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Mhm.
Southern Vermont.
And so now we're just having Common Good underground tunnels to get people just like in instant shoots between those locations.
Well, I mean,
Next step.
It's
the super underground highway.
Logical progression.
the
Just slow
point
down.
is
Put a
that,
little Common Good in, just zoom, you're there
Yeah,
like
if you-
overnight, less.
yeah, if you want to do this, and you sign up 10 people in one retail business where where those people actually shop, then you can apply for a grant and you can get paid to continue. We don't want to give people a grant. We don't want to give a grant to people who say they want to do it. We want to give a grant to people who've demonstrated that they can do it. So 10 people in one business, how hard's that? Very.
He's up to 300 people and 30 businesses now, but it took how long in Greenfield to get to where you are now?
Well, the spurt happened when we got, I mean, William had enough friends in Greenfield in relationship to the co-op so that the initial thing was pretty quick. It happened all at once in one meeting. But the rise, you can see it on the graph, the actual rise happened when we got the app to a place where it could really work, and then it was a no-brainer. And of course, most of what happens is businesses say that most of the way that it grows is the business says to the customer, why don't you sign up for Common Good?
Well, I'm definitely more interested. I'd like to have a different conversation with you at a different time. But
Yeah, we'll have more extended, like maybe over a fire tonight or some time later.
I think one question I've like really had on my mind is you're also on the board of directors for Berkshire's, right?
I was the protest candidate.
The protest, like
Yeah, I got to serve one term.
Oh, okay. Oh, were you like
Berkshire's
devil's
is
advocate or
pretty
something?
useful. Berkshire's is pretty useless. Nobody gets to decide what to issue Berkshire's for. It skipped the sovereignty thing.
Meaning the board of New Economics Institute decides, or what?
No, they issued a certain amount, it's sitting in the banks, and you buy Berkshire's for a 5% discount. And if they circulate, there's no discount, but if you cash them out, you take the 5% hit. That's it, no decisions. Nobody's deciding anything. And so all the people in the Berkshires, where I lived for 30 years, all the people in the Berkshires who knew me, and what I've been talking about, this is before Common Good, more or less, said, well, you should be on the board of Berkshire's. So well, never mind, you don't have to know the politics.
Okay.
It's a long story.
They're launching green points in Brooklyn, like Greenpoint, Brooklyn. There's they're having a green point system.
2-minute video, maybe we'll watch. John brought his projector, so maybe we'll have a little video.
Yeah, projector. You just open up a laptop or something. Is the projector set up?
Well,
It's
maybe
on
at
the
night
bus.
when it's dark.
Oh, okay.
The projector's on the
Yeah,
bus,
it's
so I can
fake,
go get it.
fake minty Oreos.
Fake minty Oreos.
you
Normanos.
live in a bus.
I have a
Numinos.
Normanos.
Numinos.
1963,
I like these
all
more, I like
aluminum
Oreos,
bus.
to be honest.
I saw it. It's really nice.
Yeah, into a motor. It's gorgeous.
No
You should go
slipple.
look at it.
Pineapple.
I'd love to see
Slipple.
that inside.
Yes.
Pine slipple.
Any opinion on the Greenpoint system? Have you looked at that?
Pardon?
The Greenpoint system that they're putting in Brooklyn and New York City?
I have not looked at it. I will.
Yeah, yeah.
Massage pencil work.
Hey,
That's supposed to be coming
Dude,
like this.
Shoot. It's in beta
Would
now.
that be they're testing it someplace in Brooklyn?
He has a
And
motor.
it's also like
Did you
a, it's like
see
a
it?
10%
The bus?
discount
The big
referring
aluminum
people to
bus?
merchants and stuff.
I don't know if it is.
Oh,
Is
no.
it paper or is it
But
electronic?
It's electronic.
when y'all came about, but
Okay. Well, maybe it's interesting. But you don't get to decide. The
you
whole
came down with
point
Michelle.
of what we're
Yeah,
doing
we're not
is that
qualified.
you get to
No.
decide what to issue money for. It's
Came
the
down,
only
got
way
you
to
around,
change society.
Whole community.
So how does the voting
I
take place?
saw the bus, but I didn't
Near
like.
the chicken
People who
coop
get
thing.
together
Can I
at
see it
a
from this window?
face-to-face meeting and come up with
Not people out
proposals for the
the
larger
street.
membership to vote on.
You want this
And
last
we
one?
use a very
The ones last
sophisticated
Well, you went.
tally
to the
system,
intent to-
so that you're really ranking the
Do we
choices.
split it?
It's a
Oh,
little
you
bit
can't
like
split it 3 ways.
exploding
Yes, you can. You
or-
can split it into
Oh,
infinite
yeah.
ways.
I like that.
I would do that too.
I know what
That
you're
didn't
talking
end
about.
too well.
But I want
Well, it's
to
more
have sun.
sophisticated. We have a whole bunch of things that.
How about some yoga?
Like on
that
the
we do
silo.
Yeah.
They get people to.
Where we
You
gonna
on
do
the
it?
silo?
Yeah, I feel like.
Yes.
They
do
make
it.
the choices and the
Yeah.
results.
It might be
I want
hot.
to hear really a lot
It may
more.
be hot, so let's bring yoga mats.
And see, for me, that the thing is, it's like it requires a lot of community engagement for your model.
Sun is cool.
Yes.
That's the point.
Let's
It
go to
doesn't.
the black.
It doesn't
Oh, that's
require
right, it is
community
black.
engagement to
Sorry,
shine.
I forgot.
It requires community
I
engagement
was thinking
to
like
create
that.
a new
Everyone
society.
has to make houses.
True.
Are you staying all night?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm gonna
okay.
spend the night.
He says spend the night.
I
So-
want to
I'll be up
see your
until late.
motorhome.
I can find a lot of
Meet the other
information
Jenny.
online, yes.
Pardon?
Will I find this video and a lot of other information online?
He's got a Jenny on his phone?
Maybe I should put the video on my YouTube channel. There is some video on my YouTube channel, John JRArc38.
It's in your hat.
There's a Jenny here today.
Yeah. They,